Om Sahanavavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Akhandamandalakaram Vyaptam Yena Characharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. In this session, we are doing the shlokas 19 to 23 of chapter 4. We have already covered the first 18 shlokas of chapter 4. And in these 5 shlokas of today, we are going to cover the theme of Jnani, the characteristics of a Jnani. Before I begin, I'm going to tell you a small story. This is a often narrated story. This is a story of the bird who was given a very luxurious cage. So the story begins with a king who goes to the forest and he's hunting. And as he's hunting, he notices a very beautiful bird. And he feels that this bird is living in the forest. It is so beautiful, but it has to live like a nomad. It has no proper home. It has to live in the hole of a tree. It has to eat worms, etc. So let me provide this bird a palace to live in. Let me provide it the kind of luxury that I'm enjoying. So he tells his soldiers to capture the bird and then takes the bird to the palace with him and makes a very beautiful cage for the bird. So the cage is made of gold and it has all the luxury that anyone can imagine. The bird is treated like a king. It has a very palatial carpet. It has a bed to sleep on. It has very beautiful plates to eat on. And it is served royal food, the palace food. The king hopes that the bird will now become even happier and even more beautiful to look at. But as the days pass by, the king sees that the bird is becoming more dull than it was before. Slowly, the bird's eyes look duller than before. There is no chirp in the bird's behavior. The bird is not seeming to be interested in anything. It's becoming weaker and weaker. It's not flapping its wings. It's losing its color. It's becoming pale. So he wonders what is wrong. He calls the best doctors in the kingdom to look at the bird, but even they are not able to diagnose what is wrong with the bird. Despite giving the best happiness, the bird does not seem to be happy. Then one day, a child who is living in the palace, it's a child of the maidservant, one of the maidservants in the palace, that's passing by, and the king shows this bird to the child. And the child, in all his innocence, asks the simple question, "Oh Maharaj, why is this bird in the cage? Shouldn't it be flying in the air? Shouldn't it be free?" The king says, "My dear child, I wanted to give this bird the best luxury in the kingdom, and so I brought it here." And then the child replies, "But Maharaj, the bird's place is not in a cage. It's meant to be flying freely in the air, and it's meant to be living on the trees. So why don't you just open the door and let the bird go?" So after hearing that, the king thinks, probably I made a mistake. So he opens the door of the cage and takes the bird outside and allows it to fly out. The bird flies in the air and is gone for a moment. And then the king observes the bird is now happily perched on a tree and it's moving about, it's hunting. It looks more like the bird that he saw the first time. Over the days, the king observes that the bird's normal appearance and behavior has returned. So this story actually is used to illustrate how the Jivatma, see, each of us, the living being, is a Jivatma, and we are meant to be free. But right now, we are living in these material bodies. We are in the material existence, and we are in samsara. So we are not free. We are like this bird in a cage. And that is the reason why, despite our best efforts to be happy with the material elements in this world, the different material pleasures we don't get sustainable happiness. We run into some form of frustration or the other in the different things we do. However rich, however materially wealthy or powerful a person becomes, he does not get lasting happiness. He does not get sustainable happiness. It is just like the bird who is in the cage. However much you provide luxury to this bird, it was not happy. So where is our real happiness? Our happiness is in becoming free from this material existence and discovering our true spiritual existence and becoming like the bird who is free to fly in the sky and roam about in the forest in its natural surroundings. So our spiritual existence is our most natural surrounding, and we need to discover that. The Bhagavad-Gita is a book that is devoted to helping us discovering our most natural spiritual existence, our spiritual self and our real spiritual existence. And in that spiritual existence, our pure connection with Sri Bhagavan in what is called as yoga. Okay, in the Bhagavad Gita, Sri Bhagavan describes very broadly two parts of yoga. The first part is the path of karma yoga and jnana yoga together. And the second path is the path of bhakti yoga, which Sri Bhagavan describes as the superior path and recommends that path for everyone to follow. So now in the fourth chapter, we are focused on the path of karma and jnana yoga and the specific relationship between karma yoga and jnana, how the performance of karma yoga sincerely leads to the discovery of jnana or the realization of jnana. Jnana is spiritual knowledge. It is the knowledge which tells us that we are not this material body. We don't actually belong to this material existence. We are the spiritual self, the Jivatma, which is separate from this body, and we have a pure spiritual existence. This realization of this knowledge is what is called as jnana. So now let's look at the 5 shlokas meant for today. The first is the shloka, 19th shloka of the 4th chapter. Yasya sarve samarambhaha kama sankalpa varjitaha jnanagni dagdha karmanam tamahuhu panditam buddhaha. So who is a learned person? Whom do the intelligent people consider a learned person? Yasya sarve samarambhaha. One whose all activities of one are kama sankalpa varjitaha. They are free from the intention or the anticipation for enjoyment. Normally, in this material existence, the motivation for doing work is the anticipation of the enjoyment that comes from that work, the sense enjoyment, material enjoyment. What do I get by doing this? Right? If one knows that, then one is motivated to do that work. This is material existence. But in spiritual existence, when somebody has that consciousness, they do their work as prescribed duty and not in anticipation of the enjoyment for that work, in return for that work. Then what do they anticipate? They anticipate purification from that mentality, and they want to get mukti or liberation from material existence. They want the purification of their mind. They want to be free from that hankering for enjoyment. Okay, that motivates them, doing the work without attachment. So jnanagni dagdha karmanam. So when spiritual knowledge emerges in the mind of the person, then this hankering, the hankering which drives material activity, that hankering goes away. That's what is meant by jnanagni dagdha karmanam. Jnana burns that hankering to ashes. Jnanagni dagdha. Dagdha means burns. Agni, jnana is compared to a fire. Tamahuhu panditam buddhaha. Buddhaha means the intelligent people or the wise people. They consider such a person who has these qualities to be a learned person, a pandita. So this is the English translation of what I just described to you. In the commentaries of Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti and Baladev Vidyabhushana, we find these points. Spiritual knowledge is compared to a fire that destroys one's hankering for the fruits of the karma. And this also resonates, this particular shloka, the 19th shloka, also resonates with the message of the 36th and 37th shlokas of the same chapter, 4th chapter. Apichedasi papebhyaha sarvebhyaha papakrittamaha sarvam jnana plavenaiva vrijinam santarishyasi. Even if a very, very sinful person begins this path and acquires that jnana somehow, then that jnana will help that person cross the ocean of sinfulness. Right? It's just like a boat. Plavaha means a boat, or plavam means a boat. So jnana plavenaiva. So with the boat of knowledge, that person will cross the ocean of the sinful mentality. Yathaidamsi samidhognihi bhasmasat kurute Arjuna, jnanagnihi sarvakarmani bhasmasat kurute tatha. Just like a fuel, yathaidhamsi samiddaha agnihi, blazing fire. Samiddo agnihi means a blazing fire will burn fuel. Fuel means, let's say, wood, for example, a forest wood that is burned to ashes by a blazing fire. In the same way, Jnanagni, the fire of spiritual knowledge, will burn all this hankering, will allow one to do one's prescribed duties without hankering for the fruits of those prescribed duties. Bhasmasat kurute, burns them to ashes, burns the hankering to ashes. And so this particular shloka, just like these two shlokas, they show us the link between karma yoga and jnana, spiritual knowledge. The next shloka, tyaktva sarma karma phalasangam, tyaktva karma phalasangam. I beg your pardon. Tyaktva karma phalasangam, nityatripto nirashrayah, karmanya vipravrittopi naiva kinchit karoti saha. So after giving up all attachment to the fruits of karma, a person who is nitya tripta means he is completely content within himself. Nitya tripta, always content. Nirashrayaha, does not feel the need for shelter of anyone, does not feel the need for anyone as his shelter. So here it refers to psychological shelter. Karmani abhipravrittopi, even if that person is involved in all activities, all his prescribed duties, naiva kinchit karoti saha. It's as good as his not doing anything at all, as good as not engaging in any activity. What does it mean? It means that this is a stage in which his karma, when he performs his prescribed karma, it neither results in punya nor in papa. There are no fruits for it. He is free from the fruits because there is no hankering for the fruit in his heart. He is doing his prescribed karma in pure knowledge. So giving up attachment to the fruits of one's karma, one who is always content within themselves and free from dependence on any other, does not do anything at all, even when actively engaged in karma. So here we see some points. Nitya triptaha, nirashrayaha, karmani abhipravrittopi naiva kinchit karoti saha. Nirashiryata chittatma tyakta sarva parigraha shariram kevalam karma kurvan apnoti kilbhisham. Nirashihi, one who is free from all material desire. Yata chittatma, one who has controlled his mind, controlled his consciousness, controlled his intelligence. Tyakta sarva parigraha, one who has given up all attachment to his family, considers the entire world as his family. He doesn't have particular attachment to his family members as such. He is responsible for his family, but he feels that the entire world is my family. Shariram kevalam karma, such a person, he ensures, he takes care of his material body. Okay, just because he is spiritually realized, it does not mean he is going to put an end to his body. His body will reach a natural end when its time comes. So he takes care of his body. Shariram kevalam karma, kurvan na apnoti kilbisham. Doing his duties, doing activities to take care of his body, he incurs no sinful reaction. Kilbisham means papa or sinful reaction of sin. So he doesn't get that reaction even if he is not doing his prescribed duties. Such a person has a choice whether to continue doing his prescribed duties or to give them up. If he gives them up for some reason, then he will not get any sinful reaction because he is free from any material desire. Yadricha labha santushto dvandvatito vimatsaraha samah siddhavasiddhavcha kritvapina nibadhyate. So he is yadricha labha santushto. Yadricha labha means that which comes of its own accord, that which is not hankered after. It comes by itself. Whatever comes by itself, he is santushta with that. He is happy with that. Dvandvatitaha. Dvandva. Dvandva means the mentality of a duality. So it is explained here that the material existence makes the living being think in terms of dualities. Dualities like good and bad, desirable, undesirable, something that I like, something I don't like. This person is my friend, this person is my enemy, right? Or male and female, not seeing all human beings equally, seeing somebody as a male, somebody as a female. But Vedanta philosophy teaches us that all living beings are the Jivatma. There's no male, there's no female. The Jivatma is beyond the identity of male and female, right? So this equality, free from duality, that is meant by Dvandvatito. Or Dvandvatito means free from duality. Dvandvatito vimatsaraha. Vimatsaraha means one who is free from envy, who has no envy in his heart against anyone. Samaha siddhav asiddhavcha. This person is equanimous in both siddhi and asiddhi, in success and failure. Whether his work succeeds and gives the result that the work is meant to give, or sometimes it fails. He is not disturbed by that. He is not disturbed by either success or by failure. Sometimes even success is disturbing. Success makes a person lose their focus. It makes them feel exhilarated. The excitement, the exhilaration distracts them. So he's neither disturbed by success, nor does he become depressed by failure. He continues to do his duties sincerely. Samaha siddhava siddhavcha kritvapina nibadhyate. So even continuing to do his karma, he does not get any punya, because punya is the cause of bondage, just like papa. When one gets punya, punya looks like a good thing, but from the perspective of liberation, mukti, punya is not a good thing, because it means that you will have to be born again in this material existence to experience that punya. And that birth may again indulge, it may drag you into doing papa. So, kritvapina nibadhyate. He gets neither punya nor papa in doing his duties. Okay, such a person. So this is a person who has jnana. And finally, the fifth shloka, we'll just come to that in a moment. Gatasangasya muktasya jnanavasthita chetasaha yajnayacharataha karma samagram praviliyate. Gatasangasya muktasya, for one whose material attachment has completely gone and one has become a mukta, or you can say samadhista, sthita pragya. So jivana mukta, these are all interchangeably used in the Bhagavad-gita. Jnanavasthita chetasaha, whose consciousness, chetaha, or chetas, is established in jnana, jnanavasthitaha. It is situated in pure spiritual knowledge. Yajnaya acharataha karma. He does karma only for the purpose of yajna. He does karma as yajna. The word yajna has two meanings. One is, it also means Vishnu. The other is, it means worship. So in the shlokas after this shloka, from the 24th shloka onwards, Sri Bhagavan will describe in detail different types of yajna that are performed on the path of karma yoga to achieve jnana. Okay, so that's why this shloka acts as a seed for those 10 shlokas. Yajnaya acharataha karma samagram praviliyate. So such work completely dissolves. What is meant by completely dissolves means that it does not lead to any punya or papa, because it is done without hankering. When the work is done without hankering for punya, then it neither leads to punya nor leads to papa. It's done with detachment. So yajnaya acharataha karma samagram praviliyate. It completely dissolves the reactions of karma. The reactions of karma are completely gone. And even the hankering for the fruits over time is completely destroyed. So we will discuss in the subsequent shlokas how Sri Bhagavan is talking about yajna, but here it's important to mention a point that is also mentioned in the 3rd chapter. There are 2 shlokas in the 3rd chapter which say that one should offer the fruits of one's karma, the punya that one acquires in one's karma, one should offer it to Sri Bhagavan, who is also known as Yajna. Yajna is another name for Vishnu. So in the 9th shloka of the 3rd chapter, Yajnarthat karmano anyatra lokoyam karma bandhanaha tadartham karma kaunteya mukta sanga samachara. And similarly, in the 30th shloka of the third chapter, Mayi sarvani karmani sanyasya adhyatma chetasa nirashihi nirmamo bhutva yudhyasva vigatajvaraha. Offer all the fruits of the karma to me and situate your mind in the self, adhyatma chetasa, with your consciousness absorbed in the self. Become free from desire for the material fruits, become free from possessiveness of material possessions, and vigata jvaraha means free from this mentality, feverish mentality that you have now, Arjuna. Yudhyasva, go and fight, do your prescribed duty. So, summarizing what we saw in these 5 shlokas, we find there are 12 characteristics of a jnani that have been described. The first one, the jnani is one who experiences the fire of spiritual knowledge in their consciousness. The jnani is completely devoid of the hankering to enjoy the fruits of their karma. He is detached from the fruits. The jnani is always content within themselves and does not depend on something external for contentment, does not feel the need inside for another person's shelter. In other words, is psychologically free from that need that I need someone to talk to, I need someone to understand me, I need someone to approve what I say. Okay, normally in material existence, each of us needs somebody like that, with whom we can talk very confidentially, in whose uh, approval we feel good. When somebody approves what we do and says that we are good people, then we feel good about it. So we need someone to approve us, we need someone to understand us, etc. But one has realized their spiritual consciousness, they do not feel such a need upon anyone, because they realize themselves as the Jivatma, which is completely free from this material existence, and this realization is genuinely existing in their heart. So psychologically, they are free. The Jnani also has complete control on their mind and senses. The Jnani is free from identification with one's family and material possessions. He performs activity for the maintenance of the body. He does not allow the body to be destroyed. He is responsible. As long as this body is alive, this body is existing, he will take care of it. He is content with what comes of its own accord. He sees beyond the dualities of material nature and treats everything equally. He is free from envy towards others. He is equanimous towards success and failure. And he does karma as yajna and experiences no punya and papa. Okay, so 12 characteristics are described across these 5 shlokas. So these things, even though we may not be having that spiritual realization now, at least theoretically we can accept or appreciate what is being described here and be inspired to aspire for it. We might be thinking that one day, if I try and perform the sadhana required to do this, then one day I will also be able to experience this realization and the happiness that comes with it, the freedom that comes with it. And even thinking in that way actually frees the mind and makes the mind feel very peaceful. Even before getting that spiritual realization, just the hope or just the anticipation that by doing this sadhana, I'll be able to get that state where one is psychologically free, even that frees one's mind and makes one feel peaceful, good, and very sattvic, strong, hopeful about oneself. So now I would like you to contemplate on the difference between jnana and bhakti. The path of karma yoga and jnana yoga is one of the paths, but as Sri Bhagavan says, the path of bhakti is an even superior path. And the path of bhakti is very elaborately explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So now I'm going to tell you a narrative, a story of how Sri Vyasa, who is the author of the Bhagavatam, came to write the Srimad Bhagavatam. What made him or what motivated him to write the Srimad Bhagavatam? So the story begins with Sri Narada sitting on the banks of the river Saraswati. Mother Saraswati is not visible today, but at one point of time she was flowing in our country, and we believe that she was somewhere in the vicinity of Ganga and Yamuna, and she merged with them at Prayag, right? So Sri Vyasadeva, he was once sitting on the bank of this holy river, and he was reflecting on his contributions to the benefit of humanity. By then, he had actually compiled a lot of Shastra. Okay, so earlier times in the Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, the Shastra is not much written down. The Veda dominates the society. The society is guided by the principles of Veda. And the Veda, being Shruti, is transmitted by word of mouth. In the sense, it's transmitted orally. So the Guru recites the Veda in front of the Sishya, and the Sishya listens very attentively. And with his capabilities, the Shishya is able to absorb everything in his mind. Just by hearing once, the Shishya can completely absorb the Veda that his Guru is teaching him, and then recite the Veda and teach it to others. So this is the power of people's intellect at one point of time. Now, as the Kali Yuga begins, Sri Vyasadeva realizes that in the Kali Yuga, people will be having very less intelligence, their memory power will be very less. And as Kali Yuga progresses, it will become worse and worse. So out of his compassion, Sri Vyasadeva says, I should make these holy scriptures, the Shastra, available for the benefit of humanity. So what does he do? So he compiles them in written form. So he compiles the Veda, and he divides the Veda into 4 parts, which are known today as Rik, Sama, Yajuhu, and Atharva. Rig Veda, Sama Veda, Yajur Veda, Atharva Veda. And then he also compiles the Puranas and Itihasas. And he assigns them to various rishis for their propagation in society. Paila Rishi is given the charge of Rig Veda, Jaimini the charge of Sama Veda, Vaishampayana Yajur Veda, and Sumantu Atharva Veda. And finally, the Maharishi Romaharshana, he is given the charge of the Puranas and Itihasas to propagate them. So these rishis in turn taught them to their disciples, who in turn taught them to their disciples, and many branches and sub-branches were created in the course of time. So Sri Vyasadeva is reflecting on all the work that he has done. And then he also realizes that he has just compiled the Mahabharata. The Mahabharata is considered a masterpiece of his work. So in that he covers the history of a particular dynasty, and he elaborates extensively on the principles of dharma, on Samanya Dharma. The Mahabharata also includes the Bhagavad-Gita that we are studying now. The Bhagavad-Gita is a small section of the entire Mahabharata. The Bhagavad-Gita is of 700 shlokas in length, and the Mahabharata is 100,000 shlokas, 1 lakh shlokas. So the Mahabharata was written in order to make the message of the Veda available to people who are not normally taught the Veda, like the Stris, the Shudra, the Dvijabandhu. They are not, it's considered that they are not eligible to study the Veda. So how will they be able to access? They don't have any Gurukul education like the other Varnas, the Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya. They are taught in the Gurukul. They at least know something, but these people, they are not taught these things. And in the Kali Yuga, because Dharma is disintegrating, if the Mahabharata is present, then people will hear the stories of Mahabharata and some form of Dharma will remain. So with that intention, he compiles the Mahabharata. So now as he is reflecting on all this, Sri Vyasadeva also feels very unsatisfied. He feels that he has not yet done that which will really satisfy him and fulfill him. He feels that something is missing. There is a vacuum. So he's not able to put his finger on exactly what is the reason for that vacuum. Why is he feeling that way? But he feels that way and he's reflecting on it. So as he does that, his Gurudeva, who is Sri Narada, he arrives there. Now, Narada is a Nitya Bhakta, he's a Nitya Mukta, he is always wandering in this universe and in Vaikuntha Loka. He is engaged in the seva of Sri Bhagavan, and he's always present when someone is looking for a solution, right? So Sri Vyasadeva, his disciple, is looking for a solution to his problem. And so Sri Narada arrives there, Sri Vyasa receives him, worships him, and then expresses his state of mind and requests for his Gurudev's advice. And so what does Sri Narada advise him? Sri Narada Muni, he tells Vyasadeva that the source of your unfulfillment is because you have not written. In all the writing that you have done, you have described Dharma very well, no doubt about it. But you have missed out describing the Supreme Being, Sri Bhagavan himself, in the way in which he should be described. His qualities, his activities, his wonderful nature, and the supreme bhakti, the very sweet bhakti that one can obtain and experience the highest happiness. all that has been missed out by you. So he says, what you have described actually is far inferior to all this. And this is what is the cause of your unhappiness. This is what is missing. So if you describe all this that I'm telling you now, you will really feel satisfied. And the result of that was the Srimad Bhagavatam. Sri Vasudeva wrote the Srimad Bhagavatam, where he describes about Sri Bhagavan's pure original nature as Sri Krishna living in Vraja, the wonderful leelas that he performs, the pure bhakti that the gopis have towards him, and the other bhaktas also have towards him, the different ways in which he comes and interacts with his bhaktas, the seva that is performed, all that is brought out in the Bhagavatam by Sri Vyasdeva. Sri Vyasdeva not only writes this book to describe Krishna, but he's also written it in a way that is considered to be of extremely high poetic quality. Poetic excellence combined with deep philosophy is present in the Bhagavatam. It's considered a super masterpiece, far superior to the Mahabharata as well. Now, in the shlokas that Sri Narada is speaking to Sri Vyasa in the Bhagavatam, this comes, all this, this narrative of Sri Narada advising Sri Vyasa comes in the Prathama Skanda of Bhagavatam itself, where Sri Vasudeva explains why he wrote the Bhagavatam. And it is in the 4th and the 5th chapters of the first Skanda of Bhagavatam. And it spans 41 shlokas. Now, among those 41 shlokas, in 15 shlokas, Sri Narada is speaking to Sri Vyasa. And now I'm going to show you 3 of those shlokas where Sri Narada describes how the knowledge given in the Mahabharata and the Veda, how it is actually inferior to the knowledge that the Bhagavatam is meant to give, or he wants Sri Vyasa to write in the Bhagavatam. So the first shloka is the 10th shloka of the 4th chapter. Sorry, the 10th shloka of the 5th chapter of the Prathama Skanda of Bhagavatam. Nayad vachaschitra padam harir yasho jagat pavitram pragranita karhichite tad vayasam tirthamurshanti manasaha nayatra hamsaha niramanti ushikshayaha. So he says that the place where the very, very nice words are used, but the praise of Hari, Shri Krishna, who is the purifier of this entire universe, is not really presented. It does not embrace the praise of Hari. That is missing. Such a place is just like the place of pilgrimage for crows. In other words, the place where garbage is dumped. That's where the crows flock, right? The crows are not attracted to a beautiful place. They're attracted to a place where garbage is dumped. So such work where Hari is not praised, the Hari who is the purifier of this universe, a place where he is not praised, he is not described, is like a place where crows go for pilgrimage in comparison, right? In comparison to what? In comparison to Ushanti manasaha nayatra hamsaha niramanti ushikshayaha. The swans, the beautiful swans, they reside in the Manasa Sarovar. Manasa Sarovar is a beautiful lake near the mountain Kailash in the Himalayas. And there beautiful lotuses and lilies grow. And the hamsa, the swans, the beautiful white swans, they take pleasure in being there. And they eat the food which comes from the lotus plants, like the lotus seeds and things like that, which is which is completely different from the place where garbage is thrown. You see, one place where beautiful creatures reside and they experience a certain type of happiness, in contrast to a place where crows grow and eat garbage, dead bodies, disposed items, filth. Crows go there and eat food, right? So this shloka, this second line of this shloka, tad vayasam tirtham ushanti manasaha nayatra hamsaha niramanti ushikshayaha. This is used in what is known as Shlesha Alankara. There are 2 meanings to this. The first meaning involves the crows and the swans. The second meaning, the crows and swans are likened to people who are attracted to material existence or material enjoyment. They are the crows, vis-a-vis the Paramahamsas, the saints, the saintly people whose minds are absorbed in that supreme being, in that beautiful being, right? So Niramanti Ushikshayaha, Ushikshayaha. Ushik means a charming, delightful thing. And Kshayaha means a place of residence. So the Hamsa, the Paramahamsa saints, they are residing in their mind, Manasa. Through their mind, they're residing in a very beautiful place, the spiritual world, the spiritual existence. So they don't take pleasure in this dharma, in this inferior dharma, which is teaching us how to get more material enjoyment. The majority of the Veda is pertaining to how to get better material enjoyment by going to Swarga Loka, by getting more punya, etc. So the Paramahamsa saints, they are not interested in that. So please describe that which will take people towards that beautiful spiritual destination. Tadvag visargo janataga viplavo yasmin pratishlokam abhaddhavatyapi namanyanantasya yashonkitani yat shrinvanti gayanti grinanti sadava. In the next shloka, he's saying that if you are able to make a intellectual creation which causes a revolution, which means which goes against the Veda, which may not comply with what the Veda is promoting. Janataga viplavaha. It's a revolution. It creates a revolution among the people. Yasmin pratishlokam abhaddhavatyapi. Even if every shloka in that has got some defect, grammatical defect or composition defect, doesn't matter. If provided, namani anantasya yashonkitani yat. The names of Ananta. Ananta means the Supreme Being, Krishna. So his names, Ananta, he is infinite. Of that infinite person, his names and his glories, Ankitani. It is dotted. That work is dotted with the names and praises, the glories of that Supreme Being. Such a work will be Shrinvanti Gayanti Grinanti Sadavaha. The saintly people will want to hear that work, will want to read that work and sing, and will want to embrace that work. They will embrace that work. So please write the Bhagavatam. Naishkarmyam achyuta bhava varjitam na shobhate jnanam amalam niranjanam kutah punaha shashvadabhadram ishvarena cha arpitam karma yadapi akaranam. So in the third shloka, the 12th shloka of the 5th chapter, Sri Bhagavan says, Naishkarmya, that is the stage when one has acquired spiritual jnana by following the path of karma yoga. If that stage where spiritual realization of jnana has been obtained is devoid of achyuta bhava varjitam, means it doesn't have the bhav towards Hari. There is no feeling of attraction towards Hari. Na shobhate. Jnanam amalam niranjanam. Niranjanam means jnana, which is free from all upadhi, all attributes, all identification with this material existence. Pure knowledge, pure spiritual knowledge. Amalam. Amalam means pure, free from any mala. Okay. Even such knowledge, na shobhate, means it doesn't shine. It has no attractiveness in it. It is not attractive. It is unattractive. Na shobhate. Kutaf punaha, what to speak of? Shashvad abhadram. Shashvad means always, abhadram, always inauspicious. What is always inauspicious? Ishvare nacha arpitam karma. Karma, that is kamya karma. Karma which is performed for acquiring material enjoyment. Kamya karma. And it is not arpitam. It is not offered to Shri Bhagavan. Such karma, what to speak of such karma? Where will that work, that kind of work, have anything attractive about it? There's nothing attractive about that work. Even if pure spiritual knowledge itself is unattractive without the emotion or without the bhav towards Hari. Without having attraction towards Hari, if knowledge is present and such knowledge is completely unattractive, then how will activity of karma, which is performed for enjoyment, how will that be attractive? Not only that, even nishkama karma, yadapi akarana, means karma performed without karana, which is nishkama karma. Even that nishkama karma will not be attractive. So in these three shlokas, Sri Narada is pointing out to Sri Vyasadeva how all the knowledge that you have described so far, which is present in the Veda, the Purana, Itihasas, like Mahabharata. Mahabharata is one of the Itihasas. So all that knowledge is completely unattractive. It is waste. It's like a useless knowledge in comparison to, it has its own value because it brings dharma in society. But in comparison to the knowledge of bhakti, the knowledge about Sri Bhagavan, it is nothing. It is completely waste. And that is the reason why you're feeling unsatisfied, unhappy. So please write that knowledge, please present that knowledge now in a new work, and then you will find your fulfillment. And that is the motivation for Sri Vyasadeva to write the Sri Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam. And hearing the story helps us to appreciate the contrast between the path of Bhakti Yoga and the path of Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga. And very correctly, in the Kali Yuga, the path of Bhakti Yoga has been prescribed. Because in the Kali Yuga, the majority of people are not capable also of performing the path of Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga, which is based on the Varnashrama system. Even to develop the strength to work without detachment is very difficult. But taking the shelter of Sri Bhagavan by listening to his stories or chanting his names, talking about him, these set of activities are much easier to perform and much more accessible to everyone. And also, not only are they easier to perform, they also give the result of purification from material existence much faster. And therefore, the path of Bhakti Yoga is prescribed for Kali Yuga. Harer Nama, Harer Namaiva Kevalam, Kalau Nasti Eva, Nasti Eva, Nasti Eva, Gatiranyatha. This is told in the Shastra. And in accordance with that, Bhakti is prescribed in the Bhagavatam and also in the Bhagavad-Gita. So later on, as we come to the later chapters of Gita, beginning with the 7th chapter, Sri Bhagavan will elaborate on Bhakti in detail. And we will discuss about Bhakti when we come there. So now I will stop with this for today, and we will chant the Shanti Mantra and close the session. Om Shanno Mitrasham Varunaha Shanno Bhavatvaryama Shanna Indro Brihaspatihi Shanno Vishnurukramaha Namo Brahmane Namaste Vayo Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahmasi Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahma Vadishyami Hridam Vadishyami Satyam Vadishyami Tanmamavatu Tadbhaktaram Avatu Avatu Mam Avatu Bhaktaram. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat.